This is Joe and Colo at DiscountJuicers.com. Today we have another exciting episode for you. In this episode, I'm going to show you guys the best way and easiest way to make nut butter and even some nut milks in the Backspin vacuum blender. I know a lot of you guys in the past have seen my videos where I promote the Nutramilk, which is a dedicated nut butter maker and nut milk maker. Unfortunately, a few years ago, the Nutramilk company, Barista, stopped importing this into the United States and they no longer carry it. So it's no longer available and many people are looking for the best alternative. And what I'll tell you guys is that, you know, while this was great in the time that it came out, it is a heavy-duty commercial model, right, made for restaurants. I mean, they originally made this because the owner of the coffee company wanted to have like a natural nut milk instead of like one of a package at his high-end coffee joint. So he made this. This is dedicated to make nut butters and nut milks. You can't do pretty much else with it unless you buy the accessory attachment that is, of course, also no longer available. That basically turns it into a food processor with an S blade. And the unique thing about this is actually had a wiping blade that spun around inside the chamber so that it can process things without that much liquid, right? That's how this one worked and was able to achieve making nut butters, right, without you having to sit there and scrape it down or sit there and use a tamper. The big problem I saw with the Nutramilk is that the whole time it's running, which it has to run maybe up to 10 minutes in some cases, depending on what nut and how smooth of a texture you want. You know, it does a lot of oxidation during the processing. So I was not a fan of that. That being said, this is a very powerful unit. I've even used it to process cacao nibs into literally liquid chocolate. All right, nonetheless, that product is no longer available. So as the #1 juicer and equipment expert to maximize your nutrition from fruits and vegetables and other plant foods, what I'm gonna recommend you guys now is the Backspin vacuum blender. The Backspin vacuum blender is not just a vacuum blender. It is different than any other vacuum blender that preceded it because it is a contra-rotating vacuum blender that does not need liquid to achieve an optimal vacuum blend. All other traditional vacuum blenders require liquid to get it to work, and if you don't have enough liquid, it won't work in a vacuum blender because in a vacuum blender the chamber is sealed and you can't stick in a tamper. So the people at Tribest came up with this design to solve that. So let's go ahead and open this up real quick and show you guys how this works and why this machine is so amazing. All right, #1, this is a vacuum blender. So before you blend, if you desire, you can turn on the vacuum function, which will evacuate approximately half of the air, or maybe a little bit more than half of the air out of the chamber before you blend. This means the oxidative damage, or, you know, to the fruits and vegetables and other plant foods, including, you know, fats going rancid because of the oxygen, is reduced minimally by 50%. So let's go ahead and take off this crap and show you guys how it works. So instead of having a blade that spins around to scrape down the sides, this doesn't even have that. So we have the outer top, which basically seals the vacuum. So this is an airtight seal on here. We have then an inner lid, and what happens on the inner lid, now you can see we have actually two chambers. We have the outside chamber and then we have the inside chamber. So what happens on the Backspin is as the outside chamber is spinning, as you guys can see, this is spinning one direction. I could take my hand and then basically spin the blade the other direction, so it's contra-rotating. So like, this is like if you drive the wrong way down the freeway at 2 a.m. in the morning because you drank too much, which you should not be doing, and a head-on collision, you know, happens, right? If somebody's driving down the wrong way in the freeway, there will be a head-on collision and it's not going to be good, right? That being said, when you're processing food, head-on collisions are great because now you get more blade contact time. Collisions in a traditional vacuum blender require liquid so that there's always going to be blade contact because the liquid can move in and out of the blades. So this works just because of the outer rotating chamber go in the other direction as the blade. This is ingenious, which is a lot different than the standard blade that goes one direction, and then the scraping blade that scrapes the side of the container. Of course, this is also under vacuum when it works. So if you guys want to learn more in detail about the Backspin and just some of the things it can do, make sure you click down below to my original unboxing episode where I unbox this and share all the specs and information about the Backspin. There is no other machine like it on the market, and that makes it special because it can do tasks that you could not formerly do in other machines, even such as the Nutramilk or even a food processor or even a blender with a tamper. This allows you to make, for example, like I'll be testing today, nut butters and even some nut milks without using a tamper, just by turning it on, running it, and literally walking away and coming back to your nut butter when you're done. So before I go on and make nut butter in the Backspin vacuum blender by Tribest, I want to go ahead and show you guys a special promotion that Tribest has going on right now. Normally my coupon code DJ will give you guys 10% off the Backspin vacuum blender, which is an incredible savings. But right now, the DJ coupon code will give you guys 20% off, and that is only good through March 23rd, so I don't want you guys to miss it. bit.ly/Backspin blender right down below. Make sure you guys use that coupon code DJ for 20% off, and not only will you get the lowest price, but when you guys use my coupon code, Tribest will also share with me a small commission so I can continue to make these educational videos for you guys where I just show you guys the results of what I'm doing with my Backspin. To be honest with you guys, the main reason why I use the Backspin is to make either like a hummus or a nut butter. I mean, I don't really get it out to do traditional vacuum blending because I still use my dedicated vacuum blender that, in my opinion, and I'll be testing this soon, compare it to like the DynaPro vacuum blender. You know, a traditional vacuum blender works good, it works better if you have liquid. That being said, the claim to fame on this machine is that this machine works great if you have no liquid. So I basically process celery in there, turn it into a mush, and then press juice out of it. Link down below to that. Matter of fact, I'll put all the links down below to my videos I've made in the past making hummus and making the thickest smoothie ever in the Backspin, because it can do a lot of things that no other appliance in your kitchen can currently do. Alright guys, so I made several videos on YouTube already sharing how the Backspin can make nut butters. I think originally I made like a cashew macadamia nut butter. The next time I did like a fermented peanut butter, and then I did a fermented almond butter, which were totally off the hook. Links down below to those videos. And today I'll be making nut butter out of walnuts, right? Walnut butter, if you can find it near you, because most grocery stores don't even sell it. Walnuts are probably one of the best nuts that have the most favorable omega-3 to 6 ratio, being higher in omega-3s. So I would encourage you guys to actually eat more nut butter made out of walnuts instead of almonds that are a lot higher in omega-6. Unfortunately, which seems to be the dominant nut butter. That being said, if you can find walnut butter near you, it can be quite expensive. We'll pop up, you know, a price right there is literally $19.99 for literally 14 ounces of walnut butter, right? Walnuts, if you go buy them bulk in the store, I mean, they're some of the cheapest nuts you could buy, depending on where you go. It could be around $4 a pound to buy nuts. And, you know, 14 ounces of nut butter is about 14 ounces of nuts, which is going to cost you about $4. So you're going to save a lot of money, guys, by making your own nut butter. In addition, besides just saving the money on the nut butter, there's a lot of differences between how you would make nut butter at home with the Backspin vacuum blender versus how they make the nut butter that you're buying in the store. Most companies that make the walnut butter, they don't care about the quality. Right? They just want to turn walnuts into a butter, do it fast, quick, and easy. So they use what is called VCMs, or vertical cutting mixers. Right? I met the owners of Artisana Nut Butters at a trade show once, and they invited me out to their factory to share with you guys how nut butters are produced. And then later on, they reneged and said, "No, John, we don't want you to come. It's our trade secrets." Maybe because they don't want me to show you guys how it's made and I'll have my temperature gun to show you guys, how hot it really gets, because in a VCM vertical cutting mixer, it basically does, a fast impact. It's running, it's getting oxidized during that, and the VCMs grind hard and fast so much that it can even separate out the oil. When oil separates out of the nuts, like if you buy to the store and there's an oil layer on top, to me that shows that there's extra damage to the cell walls, and that literally the oil leaked out. To me that shouldn't happen. All the nut butters I've made in the Backspin that I've stored under vacuum in my fridge, I've never seen any separation. They're just nice, always consistent, and actually some of those fermented nut butters I made are actually even fluffy, which is quite impressive. So, and then the other way, of course, some companies do is that they will use a stone grinder, which is quite rare, but stone grinding can ensure a very high quality nut butter. The issue with that is that it's basically running for 12 to 24 hours. So there's a lot more oxidation going on, although it is a lot slower process. So, in my estimation, if you guys are here for your food value, less rancid fats, higher quality nut butters, right? It's always better to do it yourself. And let's not, talk about the fact that what are the quality of the nuts going in to make your nut butter? Are they just buying the cheapest nuts they could find that may be on their way out, then you turn them into nut butter and you never know that there's a few rancid nuts in there? Are they getting them fresh right from the grower right after they're harvested for that season, right? When you make it yourself, you can control all elements, and including the price of the nuts or whatever you're processing at home. I'm a big advocate of making things and making recipes and making foods at home yourself instead of leaving it to industry that, in my opinion, are there to make a profit, and in some cases, and maybe even many cases, will cut corners, because at the end of the day, their business is there to make a buck. They're not there to necessarily support your health. So, do these things all yourself so that you could do it better, make higher quality nut butters and even juices and smoothies and things that I discuss on this channel. You're going to have a lot higher quality, better tasting. It's going to also last a lot longer and, be a lot healthier for you. So let's go ahead and make nut butter in the Backspin. Super simple, super easy. They actually have a dual on-off switch, 2 switches. You need to turn them both on. And when you do that, it'll light up and let you know, and beep at you, let you know it's on. Then you want to make sure you press the vacuum button, and then the lights on the top will flash. This lets you know it's in the vacuum mode and will suck out the oxygen before you blend. I always recommend you guys vacuum blend, because when you blend without the original oxygen percentage in the container, you're going to mix in a lot less air, and that air can cause, fats to go rancid, for example, and nutrients to decline, and things like polyphenol oxidase in fruits like bananas to increase and break down polyphenols. So anyways, let's go ahead and lift this up. We're going to go ahead and take the outer lid off. We're going to go ahead and take the inner lid off. And then all we're going to do, we have basically about 4 cups of walnuts, but technically this is not by the cups, this is by the weight. So I always measure out 454 grams, which is basically 1 pound of walnuts going in. If you don't have enough nuts going in, then the machine may not work properly, right? It needs to have a minimum amount, enough, but not too much. You can't really load more than about 1 pound in here at a time. And once again, this is a home unit. This would be great if you want to make, nut butters for gifts for people, or just if your family goes through a lot of nut butter, right? You could save lots of money. As I mentioned, $19.99 for 14 ounces of nut butter. If you had to buy it, maybe $5. That's about $5 in the walnut. So you're saving literally like 75%. Of course, your results may vary depending on the kind of nuts you're buying and how much you're spending. All right, but nonetheless, we are on the vacuum mode. Then the only thing you need to do to make the Backspin work is just press 1 button. You're going to press the auto high button to make the nut butter. So that's all we got to do, right? Auto high. You guys could hear the vacuum pump comes on the Backspin. It is currently evacuating out the excess oxygen out of the container to remove at least 50% of the oxygen before it starts running to make your oxygen-free nut butter. All right, guys, let's see what we got. You can hear some of the oxygen is leaking back in the container. And we're just gonna go ahead and jar up our nut butter. Let's go ahead and open this bad boy up and see what we got. So outer lid, completely clean. And then we're gonna go ahead and take off the whole container. And this is the inner lid. Look at that, guys. This is dripping wet walnut butter, 100%. Check it out, guys. I could like literally pour this out. It is that liquid. Look at that. That's uber impressive, guys. Your own homemade walnut butter made with the Backspin vacuum blender. Right? You just put the nuts in, walk away, let the machine do all the work without you. All right, guys, so after using a spatula and getting most of it out, it looks like we're almost full, and now we're just going to go ahead and scrape down all the nut butter on the lid here. This is just a nice, really liquid nut butter, guys. It doesn't get any creamier than this. If you don't want it this creamy, you can stop the machine a little bit earlier, and then it might have some chunks in there. All right, guys, so you can see all the walnut butter I got. Look, that's very liquidy, guys. It's like just literally pourable at this point. I'll basically put it in the fridge, and I could easily store it up to a month without any problems whatsoever. But I gotta do my favorite part is basically gonna go ahead and lick some of the bowl, get some of this amazing nut butter off of my fingers so I could taste it for you guys. Wow, that's a delicious walnut butter. All you guys taste is like, it's just like the flavor of walnuts intensified because there's a lot more surface area. And because there's more surface area, you get a lot better digestion, and you could even use less nuts. Like I like to use the walnut butter. You could spread it on different things. I like to actually use it in dressings and recipes. Even I like to make a dessert with it. It's actually part of my brownie recipe that I may put up online at a later point. But yeah, nonetheless, the Backspin easily made the walnut butter. All right, so cap it off. One down. Let's go ahead and make another one. All right, guys, next up, I want to make another very popular nut butter. Once again, rich in omega-3 fatty acids. These are some of the nuts and seeds I want you guys to consume more of because most Americans, unfortunately, eat too many omega-6s and not enough omega-3s. Hemp seeds will make a hemp seed butter. These are 100% hulled hemp seeds. I think they're organic, I think grown in Canada, which supplies the U.S. a lot of their hemp seeds. We love Canadians here in the U.S. That being said, hemp seed butter is very rare. It's very, very hard to find and can get really expensive. I'll throw up a picture right there. One I found online, $16.49 for 8 ounces, a paltry 8 ounces of hemp seed butter. And I doubt they're using a vacuum grinder to grind up the hemp seeds in just 4 minutes to do the least amount of oxidative damage while making a smooth and creamy nut butter, or in this case, seed butter. Of course, other seeds can be used as well. Pumpkins and sunflowers are probably going to also work great, although I haven't tested them yet. That being said, when you make your own hemp seed butter at home, you're going to save like 70%, you know, so your savings is going to depend on how good you are at sourcing high quality seeds or nuts. And so I'm guessing anywhere between 50 to 70% is the savings. So with that amount of savings, and say you eat like your family eats 1 jar of nut butter a week, literally in about 7 months, you will basically have paid for your Backspin vacuum blender. And of course, the Backspin vacuum blender has a full 10-year warranty, which means you'll be making nut butters for the next 10 years. Anyways, let's go ahead and make this hemp seed butter. Up next, just go ahead and we got the vacuum going. Take off the 2 lids, and we're once again dump in 454 ounces of raw hemp seeds. We're gonna go ahead and put the inner lid on. Now we're gonna put the outer lid on. Next up, we just lock this into place. And once again, it's as easy as pressing one button to make your butter. All right, everybody could do this, guys. Once again, auto high button. The vacuum kicks on, and then it'll start to grind up as soon as it achieves the vacuum. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and take care of some other business and let this run while I'm not even watching. Alright guys, so before I knew it, we got some hemp seed butter made. Let's take a look and see what this seed butter actually looks like. Let's go ahead and open this bad boy up. Outer cover, once again, completely clean. Inner cover, look at that, splattered with the hemp seed butter. And let's go ahead, wow, check it out guys. This is more like a paste. Check that out, it's like all stuck to the sides. So it's not completely fine and runny, but it looks completely broken down. So let's go ahead and scoop some of this out and see what kind of texture it looks like. Wow, that is the texture, guys. It's like basically barely runny. It's like super thick. It's gonna like plop in. So yeah, that's due to the oil content. The more oil content your nut and seed has, the runnier it will be. So macadamia nuts would be like the runniest. So if you want this more runny instead of more, you know, thick like this, then you would add maybe like a percentage of macadamia nuts. Maybe do like, I don't know, 40% mac nuts, 60% hemp seeds. That'll be a nice mix. But yeah, let me go ahead and scoop out this hemp seed butter. See how much we fill up this jar. So one of the things I want to point out is that the blade inside the backspin is magnetic, so once you're done, I would recommend pulling it out. You could then easily scrape off the nut butter off the blade itself, so you're not losing any valuable product. And then the next thing up, I want to share with you guys to basically make it easier when the mixture is not pourable to get it out, is so then basically you can lift up the inner chamber out. So as these lines go up, there's like a little holding point where it's flat, and you can kind of just get your fingers underneath two of them and then basically lift up and the whole inner chamber will come out. This makes it a lot easier to deal with once you're done. And then we're just going to go ahead now and scoop out our hemp seed butter. This is totally insane. It's not even running out. Totally stuck to the sides. Wow, and it smells amazing. I'm not seeing any residual hemp seeds in there. Yeah, this truly is a spreadable butter, guys. Look at that. And of course, you know, that walnut butter that we made, if we put it in the fridge, it'll, you know, harden up and firm up, and then it'll be more spreadable if that is the texture that you're looking for as well. All right, guys, so I was able to get that fairly clean, get all the amazing hemp nut butter out, and we basically filled up this jar with our hemp seed butter. Let's go ahead and smash this down and show you guys how much we actually made. All right, guys, so now the moment of truth. I get to taste test the hemp seed butter myself. Let's go ahead and lick off just whatever we have here on the spatula here. And that's what I would recommend for try this. Try this needs to include a good spatula to spoon out everything. This is called a Blend Tech, I think, specula or spoonula. These things rule the world. I don't even know if they're available any longer, but definitely a good spatula would help you, assist you to get everything out of the backspin. All right, taste testing this hemp seed butter. Wow. So while the walnut butter was like thin and like a liquid, what this reminds me of, this exactly reminds me of like a peanut butter. And you know when like you feed your dog peanut butter and it's like sticking my tongue to the roof of my mouth. It's like that thick. This stuff, guys, is totally off the hook. Once again, you cannot get this fresh quality when you buy it from the store. You don't know how long it's been made. Most nut butters sold at the stores are not in the refrigerator. They should be refrigerated. They also should be vacuum evacuated after making. Links down below for my videos on that. How to vacuum store, whether your nut butters, your juices, your smoothies, your dry goods for up to 2 times longer. That'd be an excellent way to preserve your nut butters to maintain the highest level of nutrition and have the fats minimize the rancidity of those healthy fats in the nut butter. All right, guys, 2 nut butters down. Let's go ahead and make another one. In my original unboxing video, I made a macadamia nut cashew nut butter. This time, we're going to go ahead and make 100% cashew nut butter. My friend put in a request for roasted cashew nut butter, so that's what I'm using today. I'm using roasted nuts. I always personally encourage you guys to use raw nuts whenever possible, you know, because they're not roasted. That can cause some acrylamide and other compounds to form. That being said, I know a lot of you guys may love your roasted nuts. And that being said, I would encourage you guys to, once again, make your nut butters at home so you know the exact process. Even roast your own nuts at home if you're into that. What I will also say is that roasted nuts will always perform better when making nut butter in the backspin, because generally when they roast nuts, two things happen. Either they're going to add in oil in the roasting process, or two, during the roasting process, because the nut is being heated up, the oils tend to come out. So it's a lot more higher fat content, which then makes the job of the backspin to work easier. All right, so let's go ahead and make the roasted cashew nut butter. Open up the top of the blender, take off the outer lid once again, take off the inner lid, and once again, 454 grams or 1 pound, 16 ounces of raw cashews going in the backspin. Once again, put in the inner lid, make sure it's fully seated down. The outer lid, make sure, once again, this is fully seated down. This is very important if you're going to do the vacuum function. And then make sure that clicks into place. It's flashing to let me know vacuum is on. Then we can just press the auto high button. Once again, the vacuum starts. It'll reach full vacuum, and then it'll start to grind. So we're just going to go ahead and speed this part of the video up for you guys so you guys could watch the process. Alright guys, we got cashew nut butter, so let's check it out. Let's go ahead and open up the top. Once again, take out the outer lid, clean as a whistle. Next up, inner chamber lid coming out. Look at that, stuck on nut butter. Not even dripping out. Wow, that stuff smells amazing. Let's go ahead and take this one out. Wow, look at that. This is pretty crazy. It looks like we got like a nut paste in there, totally stuck. It's not super like liquidy, but it looks like that hemp seed butter. It's gonna be nice and spreadable. And once again, for ease of cleaning, you could just go ahead and lift out that magnetic blade that basically almost has no nut butter on it, just a little bit on the tips. So let's go ahead and get all this into the jar. All right, guys, I want to show you guys this more closely because it really makes, you know, getting your nut butter out a lot easier. So what I've done, if you guys could see, around 3 areas of the top of the jar, I basically spatulated it out so I can get my fingers in there. Basically, there's like these the lines that come up that helps the, you know, the food to go into the blades. They have like little cutoff points that you could actually just kind of get your fingers underneath, and then that allows you to basically hold it and then lift up on the inner chamber there. So you guys can see I'm holding it with one of them right there, and now we could easily hold this and get all our nut butter out quickly and easily. And I want to show you guys how spreadable this cashew nut butter is. Look at this. Completely fine, broken down. This is the perfect texture for a nut butter. I encourage you guys to eat nut butters instead of butter from animals. It's a lot healthier. And of course, butter from the nuts and seeds have lots of fiber, which most Americans are deficient in. So let me go ahead and get all this creamy cashew butter out of the backspin and into my jar. Alright guys, so I was able to scrape off pretty much all the cashew nut butter out of the container and the lid. And you can see we made about this much cashew nut butter easily in the Backspin vacuum blender. And I want to go ahead and now taste test the cashew nut butter, whatever I can get off the lid here. I tried to get it mostly in the jar there for a friend. And we're going to go ahead and taste test just a little bit of the cashew nut butter. Wow. That's pretty good. It tastes like cashews. And this, once again, is a more thicker consistency. Not quite as thick as that hemp seed butter, but almost, but not as watery as that walnut butter was. I mean, think about it, guys. This is just simply amazing that in literally 4 minutes, you could probably make almost any kind of nut or seed butter that has high oil content in your home. I could only have dreamed of an appliance like this when I was a child. I bought these infomercial things that's supposed to grind up nuts, and it always made like a nut dust or a nut flour. But with the Backspin, as you can see, 3 different unique nuts, and of course links to the other videos where I did almonds and peanuts and mac nuts and cashews before, into an amazing nut butter so you guys could save lots of money, have higher quality food with more nutrition so that you and your family could get healthier. I'm all about making your own fresh foods at home from scratch instead of buying things pre-made when you don't know how it was made, and you got to ask yourself, do you feel lucky because you trust the company that's making it, or they're being shrouded behind trade secrets they don't want influencers to share with you guys? The question is yours. So you guys just saw how we made 100% raw walnut butter, raw hemp seed butter, and roasted cashew nut butter in the TriBest Backspin blender in 4 minutes without any problems. And it's great if you want to make nut butters. Of course, the Backspin will do many other things besides make nut butters. Make the creamiest hummuses, other dressings, sauces, thick smoothies, as well as other things. Once again, links down below. Frozen fruit sorbets, 100% fruit. Another thing I wanted to mention about the Backspin is that when you guys make your own nut butters, you can custom make the flavors. So for example, you could grind up the nuts and then you could put in some cinnamon during the processing, or maybe a little bit of date sugar, or you could put in some other different fruit powders in there to elevate up your nut butters. You can even do a combination. If you love coconuts, you could do a coconut cashew, you could do a coconut macadamia nut, you could mix the nuts, and you could do half hemp, half cashew, you know, whatever your heart's desire. I know my friend buys this product called Nutso that has 14 different nuts and seeds or something in there. You could make that in the Backspin as well. Just make sure you stay at the 454 grams or 1 pound is the max limit you should process, and I've always processed that max amount, and so far it's always worked great for me. That being said, another major food item besides nut butters that people are purchasing these days, and probably even more than nut butters, are the nut milks. You know, there are expensive nut milk makers that are dedicated to only making nut milk. When you buy a dedicated nut milk maker that can only make nut milk, it can't do anything else. And a lot of those nut milk makers, you know, basically oxygenate and add lots of air to your nut milks, which will basically dilute them down because you're literally airing them up instead of watering them down. This dilutes the flavor, and of course all those oxygen bubbles causes your nut milks to go rancid much faster. So I want to show you guys a better way to make nut milk in the TriBest vacuum blender. The first step is, of course, to make the nut butter. Whatever nut or seed you'd like to make a milk out of, the first step is to just make it into a butter. So what I'll be using today is basically half a pound, or like 227 grams of raw macadamia nuts. My favorite ones that are dehydrated, not high temperature dried. And you know, that's the main thing for me, guys. When I source my nuts and seeds, I source the highest quality nut and seed that I could find that are fresher. You know, I order these directly from the farmer. They taste like no other macadamia nut that you've ever bought in a bulk bin tastes like, because a lot of those are from South Africa. They're heated too hot. They're quite old. They get kind of mealy and dry. These things are nice and buttery, rich and delicious. So anyways, first up, we're going to go ahead and process, once again, half a pound or 227 grams of macadamia nuts into the butter. Once again, just loading up the mac nuts into the machine, dropping on the inner chamber lid, dropping on the outer chamber lid, dropping the top down, clicking and locking into place. We got the vacuum button going, so it is flashing. And then once again, one button press, guys. This is how easy it is to use a Backspin. Auto high is your magic button for all these nut butters and this nut milk recipe that I'm showing you guys. All right, auto high. It's gonna vacuum out and then blend on up these mac nuts into butter. Then we're gonna come back at you and show you guys how to do the next step when I add the water to make it into a nut milk. Alright guys, so in just 4 minutes, we turn those raw macadamia nuts into macadamia nut butter. Let's go ahead and check the results for you guys. Once again, top lid completely clean, inner lid looks like we got that creamy mac nut butter. And inside here, It's like nice and rich and creamy and almost pourable. It's not super, well, it's a tiny bit liquid, but it's sticking to the sides. So now the secret is we're going to go ahead and turn this into a nut milk, right? The problem is when you make nut milks, normally you basically put the nuts and the water in the blender and then you blend it up. And when you do that, after that, you then pour it through a sieve or through a nut milk bag. There you have to strain out all the residue. Because the way you're grinding the nuts is with inside the water, the nuts will go around that are in the water and then hit the blade and they get ground up, but it doesn't get ever ground up super fine, right? When you pre-grind the nuts like I did today in the Backspin under vacuum without the oxygen so it doesn't go rancid, then you add the water. Now you have a very smooth and consistent and rich nut milk. This is pretty much what that Nutramilk did. It basically blended up into nuts. You would add the water and then it would then push out the nuts, mixed it into the water and then push it through screen holes. And then pretty much like 90% of everything in the nuts came out into the nut milk. So it was a very thick, rich nut milk, right? You could pretty much achieve the same thing by processing your nuts into butter first and then adding the appropriate amount of water afterwards and then remixing it up. So that is simply what I'm doing. So once again, half a pound of mac nuts, and then we have about 24 ounces of distilled water going right in to the Backspin. Once again, then we're going to go ahead and put that inner lid on. Then we're going to go ahead and put the outer lid on. We're going to go ahead and drop that down. We're going to go ahead and make sure we're in vacuum mode, so we want the top flashing there. Then all we're going to do this time is we're just going to go ahead and hit the auto button. The auto button will then run the machine for about half the time as the auto high button, and then basically homogenize up and mix up all the water with that creamy nut butter to make the richest nut milk, unfiltered, unstrained. You don't even gotta get your hands dirty, the quickest and easiest way possible. So let's just go ahead and hit the auto button and let it go ahead and vacuum on up, and let's go ahead and let it work for you guys in front of your eyes. Alright guys, so that macadamia nut butter was turned into the nut milk right in front of your eyes, literally in 2 minutes, totally mixed up. Let's go ahead and lift this off. Once again, that outer lid, ooh, we got a couple splashes on there this time. Inner lid, full of rich nut milk. Next up, we're gonna go ahead and take the inner and outer chamber off at the same time. And what I wanna do for you guys is I wanna go ahead and pour it into my mason jar and show you guys how I'm going to store my nut milk. But more importantly, I want to prove to you guys that this is a true nut milk. We got a sieve here. Normally, if you just blend it up nuts and water, like I told you guys, you're going to have a lot of chunks. So let's see how many chunks we got with this nut milk. You know, it's going right through, guys. You guys, I don't see any chunks coming out. I'll show you guys what's left in a minute. Look at that, guys. There's no chunks. That's how impressive the Backspin blender is when you, once again, turn it into nut butter first. This is how creamy that nut butter is, right? No chunks left. Let's go ahead and pour some of this mac nut milk into my glass so I could try it. And let's go ahead and pour the rest out, because once again, always the chunks are always at the bottom of the container. So is there any chunks? Let's get all this nut milk out to find out, right? Once again, look inside that chamber. You guys see any chunks? I just see some, like, a little bit of air bubbles in there. And once again, what's in the sieve, right? We could tap this sieve down, and basically it's just some nut milk trapped in the little holes of the sieve. No particles whatsoever. That is how impressive the Backspin blender is to make nut milk from, once again, your nut butter. Super simple and easy. So we have, once again, 4 minutes for the nut butter, 2 minutes mixing up the water, or you could use like a coconut water with the nut butter, and then we made a thick and delicious nut milk right here. Thicker and creamier than anything else, because normally when they strain out the nuts, you're losing nutrition. You're losing all the nutrients that are still locked in the fiber. number one. Number two, you're losing the valuable fiber of the nuts. A lot of the health benefit, based on my research, is coming from those fibers in the nuts. And when you get rid of them and you drink a nut milk, right, you're going to lose it. The other thing I'm going to tell you guys is, once again, you could customize your nut milks to your satisfaction, to your preferences, to your taste and flavor preferences. So first you make the nut butter like I did today. Once again, half a pound of macadamia nuts. Then we put in, once again, 3.5 cups of water. And at that point, you could add in a couple whole dates, some date sugar, some cinnamon, some, vanilla beans, some vanilla extract, add in other sweeteners, some honey, whatever you want, so that you will have a flavored nut milk without all the guar gum, without all the thickeners, the emulsifiers, everything they add to your nut milk, so that you are not getting something pure. They even add artificial flavors and colors in some nut milks, and unfortunately, even, sugars that are not healthy for you. That's why I always encourage you guys to use real fruits instead of sugars. Anyways, I'm so thirsty now. Let's go ahead and taste test this macadamia nut milk. Wow, that is amazing, guys. I mean, once again, I use the highest quality mac nuts. This is completely amazing. I'm not tasting any bits or flecks in there. It's just rich and thick. Unlike nut milks, if you strained it out, you're losing nutrients, you're losing fat that are getting thrown away with the pulp. The Backspin grinds it up so finely that you literally don't even taste it. Now, yes, it will be thicker than regular nut milks. Some of you guys that are really texture sensitive may need to get used to this, but mark my words, this is a healthier way to make nut milk. Not only is it under vacuum, but once again, using the whole nut, you're getting the maximum food value, and you're not going to have any waste like the other ways you make nut milk. And of course, this is going to be a lot easier to clean than some of those complicated nut milk makers that are out there. All right, so good. I got to pour me a second glass. All right, so now I want to show you guys how to store your nut milks, and you can even store your nut butters like this. What you want to do is you want to get these pure vacuum lids. These fit on wide mouth mason jars, and the pure MVP vacuum pump. This vacuum pump will suck out the most oxygen out of your jar that I've tested. To date, it pulls between 80 to 85%. I know you guys could buy these cheaper ones on Amazon, but you want to link down below to the video where I test all the cheap pumps from Amazon. They pull about 50 to 60% if they're lucky. This pulls 80 to 85% out, which means it's going to leave a paltry amount of oxygen left in the container. Not only the headspace, but dissolved oxygen in the liquid in this case. So what we're going to do is we're just going to go ahead and pump it up. And as we pump it up, you may notice that the headspace, or there are bubbles coming out of the nut milk. This is the dissolved oxygen that is created during the processing of the nuts. You guys can see it wasn't full all the way, and now it is. So what we're going to do is we're just going to go ahead and tap this down. That'll force all the air bubbles that are trapped inside the nut milk up to the top. You could see through there like I can. You'll see the bubbles come up to the top. We're going to go ahead and just simply tap this down a bunch, and then we're going to go ahead and pump more. All right, and then we're going to just go ahead and repeat that process where we tap down, trying to get all the bubbles out into the headspace, and then we're just going to go ahead and continue to pump until we've evacuated all the oxygen out of the milk and the headspace. Then and only then can you store this nut milk for several days, maybe up to 5 days, or maybe even a week if you're lucky, depending on the nut milk you make and how much oxygen you get out. But definitely several days you'll be able to store this nut milk by removing all the oxygen. If you guys want to get this pure MVP pump and the lids that I recommend, you guys can go to bit.ly/pure MVP, use coupon code DJ5. That'll save you guys $5 off the kit I recommend, and you'll also get free shipping to boot. All right, guys, so I've achieved maximum vacuum on this nut milk, so it'll store the maximum amount of time. I mean, the other thing that I want to tell you guys is that, this machine makes nut butters and also the nut milks differently, especially when making the nut milks, right? Under vacuum, literally oils emulsify without an emulsifier into water. If you don't believe me, link down below to a video where there's mad scientist guy online basically mixes and water with oil, right? That's why making nut milk in the vacuum blender is much better because you're going to emulsify those fats into the nut milk to make it a lot creamier, tastier, and stay suspended over time. Of course, if you let this sit a little bit, right, just shake it up, it'll turn back into that nut milk, and then pour it out, and then you'll get to enjoy. Wow. No better nut milk than nut milk you made at home in the Backspin vacuum blender by TriBest. All right, guys, so you saw it here first, how he easily made several different nut butters. Once again, raw walnut butter, raw hemp seed butter, and roasted cashew nut butter. Then we made macadamia nut butter, 100%, then added some water, and we had the best macadamia nut milk, right? This machine literally takes the place of the Nutramilk and is a step ahead, an improvement over the Nutramilk for a few reasons. Number one, it makes nut butters faster because of the way this operates and its intelligent design with the counter-rotating blade that causes food impact, right? We're able to make nut butters in 4 minutes. All these were easily made in 4 minutes. Sometimes the Nutramilk could take 10 minutes or more to make a nut butter depending on the nuts you're using. Second reason why the Backspin is better than other appliances out there to do this similar task is because it removes over half of the oxygen that is in the chamber before it processes, so you are grinding under vacuum without the standard oxygen in the atmosphere. All other systems that make nut butters mix in the oxygen. This will mix in less oxygen because it is done under vacuum to preserve more of those valuable nutrients, not cause the fats to go rancid more quickly, and to be able to store your nut butters even longer. And of course, besides the nut butters, you guys saw how easy it was to make the most delicious nut milk with no straining required. Stop buying those machines that strain out the good fibers of your nuts, and instead turn it into a nut butter and then add the water so you can make a rich nut milk, right, with no fibers left in my sieve like I showed you just before. And if you guys are watching this video when it first airs, you guys are the lucky ones because right now TriBest is offering their greatest discount on the Backspin vacuum blender. You're gonna literally save $100 off right now by using that coupon code DJ at bit.ly/backspinblender right now, only until March 23rd. After March 23rd, using that coupon code DJ will save you guys 10% off, which is still a good chunk of change, so you can have the latest blending technology to make your nut butters, to make your nut milks in the best ways possible. And of course, when you guys use that coupon code DJ, TriBest will share me a small commission so I can continue to make these educational videos for you guys and show you guys the latest technology that you could use in your kitchen to elevate your food to a higher nutritional level, better taste sensations, and eat more clean by making food at home yourself. So I want to thank you guys who will use my coupon code in advance, or thank you guys who have used it in the past. It allows me to continue to buy my nuts, pay my light bill, take my time out of my day to make these videos for you guys, and of course pay my amazing video editor that is able to edit all these videos so you guys can get the best information on processing your food at home. Alright guys, so I really hope you enjoyed this episode making different nut butters and nut milk in the TriBest Backspin blender. This is the best machine out there, guys, if you guys want to make nut butters that I've ever found, and also can make many different nut milks as well, simply and easily out of, you know, basically fatty nuts. So this will not work on oat milk because you can't turn oats into an oat butter first, right? But all other nuts and seeds you could turn into a butter first, so you could add the water to, that'll have this nice texture that is, once again, simple and easy, strain-free. You're also gonna get more benefits due to that fiber, and of course it's under vacuum, so you're not getting the rancidity that you would have in a normal blender or a normal method of making the nut butters. So if you guys enjoyed this episode, please be sure to give this video a big thumbs up. That'll encourage me to do more episodes like this, creating other nut and seed butters and other amazing creations in the Backspin blender. And of course, also share this with other people on a plant-based, vegan, raw vegan, or even keto diet that wants to make the highest quality nut butters instead of getting ripped off at the store when they may be using old nuts. It maybe have been sitting on the shelf for years before you buy it, and it may not even taste good when you get it. This way you are assured of creating the highest quality nut butters for your diet at home. And that's why I love the equipment so much, and that's actually why I got into selling them in the first place. Of course, also be sure to click on the subscribe button right down below so you miss my new upcoming episodes that are coming out every 5 to 7 days. You never know what new equipment I'll be sharing with you guys to process your fruits and vegetables and other plant foods in the best ways possible to maximize your nutrition and maximize your health. And make sure you click the little bell so you get notified as my new videos come out. Also be sure to check my past episodes. The past episodes are a wealth of knowledge. Over 900 episodes at this time on this channel dedicated to you guys all about the different appliances to process fruits and vegetables and other plant foods the best way as possible. And I'll put links down below this video to my other videos I made using the amazing Tribest Backspin vacuum blender so you can see all the amazing things it can do. So with that, my name is John Kohler with DiscountJuicers.com. Be sure to visit DiscountJuicers.com/YouTube for special promotional offers for our YouTube visitors.